Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. PK Subban has been going viral this week because of some comments that he had to make originally on ESPN's Get Up. Okay, he went there. He spoke about the competitive fervor and the culture in the NHL within hockey players, and he was contrasting that with what was going on with the NBA. Obviously, they just came off another debacle with this last All-Star game being the second lowest rated game in the history of the sport. It was that bad? And there's been this conversation around, whether or not these guys actually care. We've heard players like Darius Garland say, hey, look, if you want to motivate us, incentivize us, give us all $1 million each, and we'll go out there and play. And those comments turned off a lot of NBA fans. Then subsequently, he was brought on ESPN First Take. I forgot who else was on the panel with him that day. I can't remember right now. But he was there with Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith gave him the stage again. And he went out there and he expressed his views. And in the midst of him expressing his views, he ended up taking a direct shot at LeBron James, right? Now, why did he take a shot at LeBron? Well, I'm sure all of you remember that on the Sunday of the All-Star game, LeBron announced when he got there at the media day where he essentially said that he would not be playing, which shocked a lot of people, right? And a lot of people were like, bro, why didn't you say this before, right? Why didn't you say this before? You would have opened up a slot for a person like Norman Powell or Sabonis or someone else like that to go out there and get an opportunity and play in the All-Star game. He got heavily criticized for that. So as he was talking about this on ESPN, he then decided to take it a step further, where basically he explained that the people that really set the trend for the NBA and set a standard for the NBA and really gave their all to the fans were Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And he's like, it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been playing. You got to go out there and show up for the fans. For those of you who don't remember those specific comments, I want to play it for you because it directly ties in to some audio that we got yesterday. Take a listen to what PK had to say there.
What are you playing for? Like, if you're really about it, if you're really about sports, then you're about two things: your teammates and the fans. And I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. When you do not show up to play, you're letting your teammates down. When you do not show up to play, you're letting the fans down that are paying you 40, 50, 60 million. I don't care if you're getting 300 million. Congratulations. But these people in here are paying $2,500 a ticket, $5,000, that are blue-collared, hard-working people. If you don't get your head wrapped around that, you shouldn't be in pro sports. Because how are we going to grow? How do we expect you to be an example? Well, guess what? You don't want to be? You are one. You're on the biggest stage. You just said it. They make the most money. You're an example. You got to show up. You got to take that on. I'm sick and tired of making athletes greats, all-time greats, that aren't the best examples. Those are the people that we want our kids to follow, that we want athletes to follow. That helps us in our game. Stephen A., you want athletes to be educated on this and understand this. They got to understand the importance of showing up to the All-Star game and being on the court. And playing banged up sometimes. And playing injured maybe at times. Thank you. And participating, because here's the thing. Because you're making 100, 200, 300 million, you should be out there banged up. You should be. That's why we pay you, is to max out. We talk about greatness and it being the longevity of somebody's career. I don't care if you play 50 years. I want your best 10. I want you on the court dominating. I want you to go all out. I want Michael Jordan. I want Kobe. That's what I want in every sport. That's the guy that I follow. You're a different version than that, you don't get my respect. That's me, and that's my angle. That's who I am. But I think we got to be very careful on that. For the NBA, my question is for those players. Are you leaving a better league than what you came into? Because I'll tell you something. For KD, for LeBron, Steph, all the money that they're making came on the backs of Magic Johnson, of Larry Bird, of Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all these guys. So, you got to keep that in mind. How we value greatness. It's not just about rings, and it's not just about on the court. As an athlete, Yeah, I value those things. But the reason why I followed Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant was because of their approach to their craft. They never took a day off. They left it all on the court. It didn't matter whether it was an exhibition game or a playoff game. I don't know. That's the standard of greatness for me in every sport. So when I see players doing it that don't have the talent, maybe aren't superstars, I'm willing to pay for that. But here's the thing about hockey. We got the stars. And guess what? They're on the ice. They're giving everything they have every night, no matter what we're doing. So that's got to be the standard for greatness across sports for me.
Fantastic. So you heard his comments. So I was just combing through the internet, and I came across some sound from Dwayne Wade. And as you guys know, Dwayne Wade, top 75 player, 3-time NBA champion, one of the greatest two guards in NBA history, arguably a top 5 two guard in the history of the sport. And he was addressing this precipitous fall, the All-Star ratings and how fans have really turned away from the game and all of that. And he was talking about when he was playing in the All-Star game and how Kobe Bryant was the one that set the tempo for the entire game. And he was explaining how Kobe was the one that raised the intensity of all of the players on the court, and everyone followed suit. And as he was saying this, I'm like, this is directly what PK was talking about. This is the exact reason he picked Kobe and Jordan over LeBron. For those of you who didn't hear what D-Wade had to say, take a listen to his comments here, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Dwayne Wade there.
I agree. So here's my take on just my personal take. And I've already shared why I think the game has kind of went a little watered down, because it's not just about the game anymore. If you know the schedule of all-star guys now versus then, it's about the business.
It's the business.
It's not about the game no more. As much as you have to do before you actually go perform, it's different
crazy,
from back in the day.
wow.
But the thing I would say is this: as someone who came in, my first All-Star game being 04-05 season, the stars of the game was the one who determined how the game went.
Okay.
Kobe Bryant brought it every All-Star.
Every All-Star.
So me as a young guy having to guard Kobe, he at my ass. I got to lock up.
Yeah, you do.
It was different because of the stars in the league. So I'm not saying that LeBron at 40 should be the one, but what I'm saying is when we came in, the stars determined how the game was going to go by what they brought to the game.
Yeah.
I'm just following suit because I'm a young fella happy to be here, but I don't want to get embarrassed by Kobe Bryant. So now let me lock up.
You got to play.
Why you got to bring up?
I was asking you questions.
You cold as ice.
Because he broke Kobe's nose in the All-Star game.
But he was competing
No,
at a
he's
high
competing.
level.
I'm a competitor.
Why you break his
Yeah.
nose? He So I always wanted to bro.
Oh,
ask you that.
Yeah,
With the
you
men,
always
was it
want to
a
ask me that. Well, I was
Would
on your
you
show.
wanna
Why
ask-
you
it
didn't
was
ask me
a
on your show?
I forgot.
You got.
I forgot you broke Kobe nose,
did.
man. You,
I did.
He using all your fouls, too.
Ain't going home with none of them.
That's the competitive nature.
Okay,
He don't leave
so-
no fouls on the table.
So when I came in, Kobe set the tone for the All-Star games.
Right.
Kobe would go out there and be ready to bust your ass.
Right.
So when I was that All-Star game in particular, the one we talking about, Kobe was fucking me up on the other end. He was hitting me. He was doing that little
Right
here.
here.
He,
Oh, yeah.
He was
Oh,
hitting me
yeah.
with, and
Oh, that shit hurt.
I'm like, Kobe,
Come on,
man, he
man.
don't care. Kobe's he locked in. He's a competitor. So I'm, then I lose myself a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's what we doing.
Yep.
This is where we at.
That's where we at.
Okay.
So on the opposite end, I'm like, get the ball because I'm up, right? That's all I'm thinking. I'm about to foul you because now you down there and the ref
Right.
ain't calling it. We're in the All-Star game.
All-Star
No
game.
one sees this but me and you.
Right.
And I told you 3 times, Cole, stop doing that. So I was like,
Yo, here come that Chicago. Stop doing
yeah,
that,
I was like, so I'm a person who I'm gonna handle it. Now, mind you, didn't try to bust nobody knows that, you know what I mean? But I did try to foul the just to let him know you're not
Stop
gonna
I'm
play.
here.
So I let him go. He went and did his thing. And then I saw him grab his nose and I started bleeding. I was like, uh-oh.
Bro, he gave you the look like this, like
No, he
I like
ain't say
that.
nothing. No,
I know, but
he
you-
scared me because he ain't say nothing to me.
Oh, yeah, he's scary.
I was like,
that.
Kobe, you all right?
He like a broke nose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bro, I told you,
my
I
black
said that
mask
so
Put it
when, I,
back
when I
yourself.
called him about the All-Star, I was like, hey, bro, like, we good?
good?
Like,
Yeah.
you cool? And he was like, I love it. And
That's
I was
crazy.
scared as hell. I'm like, oh, he about to give me 40.
That's
So
a
let me
different
ask you
He about to give me
mindset.
40 in L.A.
So you heard what Dwayne Wade had to say. This is exactly what we've been saying. This ties in directly to some of the things that I've been saying. I've been saying for the past God knows how long, How is it possible that LeBron is the face of the NBA? He's the leader. And yet he's a part of these games, which are some of the most uncompetitive basketball games in the history of the sport. How is this possible? How is this going on while he is on the court? Now, some of his fans will say, hey, look, man, you got to look at his age and all of that. It has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with age. Whether or not you're competing and setting a tone, you could do that for a few minutes and people will follow suit. So to me, what this audio reveals was that the last real alphas in the NBA were Jordan and Kobe. These guys were the standard bearers. They were the ones that set the standard. And the rest of these guys were just basically following them. Did you hear anywhere in that audio that LeBron was the one setting the tone? LeBron fans have figured out an out for this particular argument, which is that he's old. But the question then becomes, when did LeBron ever set a tone for any All-Star game anywhere? I mean, from what I can remember, LeBron was the one capitulating under pressure in All-Star games to Kobe. Kobe was the one that was 34, 35 years old, guarding a prime 27-year-old, whatever, 28-year-old LeBron James in an All-Star game, embarrassing him. He was the one guarding him. Did you ever see LeBron guarding anybody? Did you ever see him setting any tone? So this is why people like PK don't respect him. This is why a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't. This has nothing to do with hating. A lot of people like to describe this as hating. No, it's not hating. What we're doing is we're pushing back on some of these ridiculous narratives that these guys try to propagate and force down the throats of NBA fans. What do you want? Just one point of view in the media spectrum? Just one view? You got people that go out there and twerk it up every single day without fail. It's like they got their alarm clock set. The minute it goes off, time to twerk. They got the jar of honey sitting by the side of the bed. They ready to go. And in the minute you start getting other views out there, all of a sudden it's, hey, nah, you guys want to dominate the space and control the narrative. There must only be one narrative. And if there's another voice or voices that come out there and give you an alternative perspective, oh my God, these guys are hating. Why don't y'all characterize Kendrick Perkins, Nick Wright, Shannon Sharp, all of these other dudes that be out there twerking it up on a daily basis? Why don't y'all characterize them as haters? Of course you don't. Because they're up there preaching your nonsense that you want to hear. And these guys are so used to being pacified that one day you can have a strong opinion. Now I'm referring to Stephen A. Smith. And the very next day you go out there and say, man, LeBron's the greatest player of all time. I gotta give him his flowers. It's almost as if to say, man, we were too tough on him yesterday. We need to be nice to him today. What are we doing here? What ESPN needs is more people like this to come on their shows and give you another side of the coin. This is what people really need, not this same watered down BS of people going up there twerking it up all day, hollering, screaming all over the airwaves to these fans. You got another perspective that a lot of fans support. And it's important to say there are a lot of people that disagree with this nonsense that is being spewed and propagated every single day on TV. It's important to realize that. Other views must be heard. I'm sorry, if that makes you feel a kind of way, how do you think we feel sitting here listening to all of these honey-slinging ass LeBron zealots all over media? How do you think that makes us feel? We love it? Y'all love it. We don't. So we're just supposed to sit here and listen to these dudes all day long and nobody else gets to say anything? Hell no. We're going to continue to do what we do. There's another side to this. And we're not backing off of it. The same way y'all ain't backing off, neither are we. There's kind of been this shift that has been taking place in the NBA over the last, let me say, 6 to 7 years, where we're seeing international players dominate the sport in a way that they've never done in the past. To put this into context, the last 6 regular season MVPs in the NBA, the last 6 of them have all been international players. All of them. That's been Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I can't remember, and Joel Embiid. And this year, without a shot of a doubt, that is going to be another one of these guys is going to win. It's either going to be SGA or Nikola Jokic. That's what it's going to be. If you look at the top 5 players in the NBA, 4 out of the 5 of them are all foreign players. If you look at the all-first NBA team last year, do you know who comprised that team? Let me just, I think I just had it open on my tab a few moments ago. Yes, okay, here it is. I had Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, SGA, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum. Of those 5 players, only one of them was an American-born player. Out of the 5. If you look at the All-Star voting this year, let me see if I can actually pull it up. All-Star voting results. I think, the All-Star voting results, the vast majority of them were these international guys who got a lot of votes, right? This year, let me see. I'm trying to see who got the most votes. At one point, I think it was Nikola Jokic got the most fan votes overall. He got 3.7 million votes. That's more than LeBron. That's more than Kevin Durant. The 4th player in that slot in the Western Conference was Victor Wembanyama. All right. If we have the Eastern Conference, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who led all of them in the Eastern Conference in the front court. Western Conference, let's see. The front court, it was Nikola Jokic. Let me see. Western Conference, let me see. The guards, it was SGA, right? So these guys are also dominating in terms of votes and fans voting them in, which represents another shift. And this is the reason why I was shocked this morning when I came across an article that highlighted some comments from Carmelo Anthony. And the article was from fadeawayworld.net, and it has the following headline, and it says, Carmelo Anthony explains why Victor Wembanyama can't be the face of the NBA. Folks, you're not going to believe what Carmelo said. Let's get into his comments now. In a segment on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast, NBA legend Carmelo Anthony spoke about which player is next in line as the face of the NBA. According to Anthony, it can't be Victor Wembanyama for one particular reason. Wemby can't be the face of the NBA because this is our sport, referring to America. Luka can't be the face. Giannis can't be the face. SGA can't be the face, said Anthony. Ant, Ja, Jason Tatum, these are the faces. Zion was supposed to be the face of the NBA. You can't be the face of a league that we started. Another person, and then the article continues on, it's hard to define what it means to be the quote-unquote face of the NBA, but its title is typically reserved for the best players in the league. As a representative of the league and a role model for countless young athletes, being the NBA's featured player comes with a certain standard of living that often involves carrying the league's image. And then the article then goes on to say a few other things. What are my thoughts about what Carmelo Anthony had to say? I found what Carmelo had to say extremely disappointing. Okay? Extremely disappointing. Although I understand what he's trying to say in the sense that conventional wisdom tells you, yes, it's an American sport, so therefore an American should be the one, be the face of the league, but it still doesn't excuse his comments. Okay? And I'm going to tell you why. The best way to attack this issue isn't to attack it head on. It's to attack it with some examples. Okay? First of all, I don't see how a foreign player cannot be the face of the NBA when the NBA is an international sport. It's a global sport. They're trying to grow in every market imaginable. They're trying to grow in Europe. They're trying to grow in China. They're trying to grow in Africa. So how can you have a league that's trying to market a sport, grow a sport with various initiatives across the globe, then turn around and say that, hey, look, you guys can play in our NBA, but you can't be the face of our NBA. And then turn around and say to those fan bases around the world, you guys can support our league, but just know that no player from either of these countries or regions of the world can ever be the face of our sport. Now, please continue to support us and give us your money. Thanks. How does that work? That's the first aspect of this. Let's address it from another vantage point. Can you imagine if this was the reverse? It's always important to say this. Can you imagine if this was the reverse? If it was a white dominated sport and they turn around and say, hey man, this sport was created by whites. And so therefore you can never have a black be the face of the sport. They can play, they can get good contracts and all of that stuff, but this sport has always remained for the whites, and only a white whatever player can be the face of the league. You would have blacks running and hollering and screaming racism and all of this stuff, right? So where is the outcry here? Where's the outcry? Now, some people say, oh man, you ain't keeping it on code and this and this and that and this and this. Look, I'm 37 years old, about to be 38. I'm a grown ass man, son. I don't let other men, maybe outside my father, maybe a few of my uncles or mentor, influence me. I think for myself. I don't allow other men in this world to lead me on how I need to be seeing the world and thinking. This is how I view it. Number two, I'm a global citizen. Yes, I was born in the States. I've lived all over the world. I've lived in the United States. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Africa. So I have a global perspective. Similarly to Kobe. That's the reason why Kobe was much more relatable to more people around the world than some other players. Kobe was a global citizen. He was truly a global ambassador. He was respected in the United States and he was respected abroad. And he's one of the reasons why so many players like Joel Embiid and others were influenced by Kobe Bryant, watching him play basketball for the Lakers for all of those years. You then have that aspect of it. And as I was listening to Melo's comments, I did some research. Okay. As you guys know, or some of you may be aware, I'm a huge Formula One fan. Huge Formula One fan. My favorite driver, my favorite team, because when I was living in Italy, my favorite team was Ferrari. But my favorite driver had always been Lewis Hamilton. Okay? Now, what is it? It's quite obvious why I like Hamilton. He's a black guy. There aren't really any black guys in the sport. Doesn't mean that I don't like Michael Schumacher, who I do like. I like Charles Leclerc. I like Lando Norris. Not a fan of Max Verstappen. The point I'm making is I resonate with Hamilton because he's a black guy, but that doesn't stop me from liking all of these other drivers and respecting just how good they are. Sebastian Vettel and all of these guys for being excellent drivers. But I resonate with him the same way if it was an inverse. If it was all black drivers and it was one white driver, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of whites would resonate with him, but it doesn't mean that they don't respect the craftsmanship and the driving skills of all of these other guys. I mean, people are not that myopic, right? So you can have that. But anyway, Hamilton was one of the people that really got me into the sport, although I supported Ferrari. So then I did some quick research this morning and I asked the question. I said, who was the one that started Formula One? And according to what I found, it says, no one is absolutely sure who first had the idea of an official Formula One World Championship, but the credit is generally given to Marquis Antonio Brivio Sforza. And I quickly Googled him, and he, I believe, was an Italian. Sforza was an Italian race driver, and he was born in Bellia, Italy, and he died in Milano. I think he died in Milano, and then it says some other stuff there, right? So he's an Italian. Now, can you imagine if the forerunners and the gatekeepers of Formula One said, this sport, the face of this sport can only be an Italian or could only be a white guy. Can you imagine how that sounds? Do you know who the face of this Formula One is right now? Lewis Hamilton. For sure. And then you can have Max Verstappen, but for sure it's Lewis. He's the biggest draw. When they wanted to market the sports in the United States, they were marketing Hamilton, not Verstappen. So can you imagine if Formula One said that? What would black people be saying? Black people be saying, oh, this is xenophobic and blah, 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 blah. So why is it different in the case of Carmelo? Why do we make exceptions for these things? Why? Why isn't wrong? And you know one thing I got to say. Some blacks like to say, well, white people do it too, so I don't see why we do it. My brothers, I don't model my life against what white people do. White people do not model their lives against what black people do. White people do what white people want to do, and they do what they do. They don't do it in terms of, well, what do the blacks do? No, they do what they do. And why are you trying to live your life measuring every single move and every single decision and every single idea you have against what a white person says? If a white person does something wrong, so therefore you say to yourself, well, they did it wrong, I have to have the opportunity. Why? Why don't you just do what's right because you believe it? Why is it always informed of what this white person did or what that person? Do what you believe and do what's right, irrespective of what everybody else is doing. And I'm saying this to say, I'm black, Carmelo Anthony's black, but I disagree with these comments. I think they're extremely xenophobic. And I don't think this is the message you should be sending out there to all of the younger fans coming up watching the sport that are trying to be inspired. What if there's a kid somewhere in the world that was inspired by Carmelo Anthony, watching him play, just to hear Carmelo later on say in life, oh man, this sport can only be for Americans. What? I don't support this message. I think it's ridiculous. Why are you saying this? So if it's Victor or somebody else or Luka or Nikola Jokic, what's going to happen? The fact of the matter is, let's be honest about this, a lot of the American guys have not been taking the sport seriously. Let's keep it a buck. It's one of the reasons why a lot of NBA fans who are Americans don't give a damn. They're not thinking of, oh, well, I'm not going to support this guy because he's not American. They don't care. They're going to support who they think plays great ball. The fact of the matter is a lot of American NBA fans are not rocking with American players because of how they're carrying the league since their predecessors. You go back to the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds, the Michael Jordans, the Kobes. These guys held a standard. What are these new dudes doing? Nothing. So they created an avenue for these international guys to come in and totally take over the league. We even put up a poll before shooting this video on our channel about an hour ago, and I said, who would you be for or against a foreign player being the face of the NBA? Still early. Out of the 1,000 voters, 85% of them said for. 15% said against. Let me go through some of the comments. One person said, sad, this is even a question. Another person said, should be the best player, period. Another person said, it's the best player. Doesn't matter where you come from. Another person said, let me look for another one. Right now, Caitlin Clark is the face about. Another person says, you need an it doesn't matter button. This is what our viewers said. So for Carmelo to say that, and what surprises me is, Carmelo is not like some regular dude walking off the street giving his opinion. Carmelo Anthony has played basketball around the world, and he's traveled around the world. So for him to have this view is crazy to me. It's not like as if you're somebody that's talking that's not exposed, that hasn't been anywhere in the world. You've traveled the world. So to still hold this view is crazy to me. So you should give it to somebody else that's less deserving just because they from the States? How is that beneficial to the fans? How is that beneficial to the product? Don't you want the best product out there possible? Like, what are we talking about here? It's like you own a restaurant. Oh, this restaurant is only going to be Jews that cook. It's only going to be Italians that cook. It's only going to be French people that cook or Africans that cook. And this is my viewpoint. But it's like, oh, bro, wait a minute. I know this is an Africans only restaurant, but this Lebanese guy really knows how to make good food. Are you telling me we're not going to hire him because it's an African restaurant, but he cooks really, really good? So we're going to diminish our product just because we want to hold on to this thing that it must be an African? What the are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are we talking about right now? So those comments were extremely disappointing. And I think we need to get out of this mindset because this very mindset can be used against you. And if you endorse this, don't be complaining when somebody says some wild, crazy stuff about blacks. I don't want to hear nothing. Because right is wrong, period. Whether if it's a black dude doing it, a white dude doing it, right is right and wrong is wrong, period. You have to be principled about this. Those comments are crazy. We all know that we're witnessing the erosion of an NBA product. You don't need to look any further than these All-Star weekends. this past Sunday's game was the second least viewed game in the history of basketball. The history of the sport. The second worst game ever. In the midst of all of that, you have LeBron James, who's supposed to be the face of the NBA, showing up to All-Star Weekend to make things worse and announcing an hour before the game he has no interest in playing. He won't be playing. When the team is taking team photos, he didn't even suit up to wear the jerseys. He just basically thumbed his nose at the entire NBA. But prior to that, I've been saying on this channel, if LeBron is the face of the NBA and he's a leader of these guys, why can't he get these guys to compete? How is it possible that this guy cannot get these players to compete at all, but he's the face of the NBA? It certainly wasn't like this when Kobe Bryant was around or Michael Jordan was around. Hence the reason PK Subban has gone viral all over the place, the internet over this week, for basically saying that Jordan and Kobe were the ones that set the standard. And LeBron is the one that lowered it. He's doing nothing for the sport. Then I'm just going through the internet here, and I came across an audio from Blacktop Buckets. And it says, Stephen A. Smith reveals Larry Bird was disrespected by All-Star Locker Room. And I clicked on the video. And as I'm watching this video, I'm like, wait a minute. Stephen A. Smith said something about this a month ago when we produced a show about it a month ago on our channel. In that show, we were reacting to some comments of Stephen A. Smith where he suggested that, he said LeBron. He didn't suggest nothing. He said LeBron, when the greats came in to talk to the players, after he finished talking, he gave all of the players a side eye, and they all went out there and let a game almost have 400 points. And then I hear these comments where Stephen A. Smith is now saying that, in fact, the player that was disrespected to his face was Larry Bird. But what we want to do first is I want to play the original audio, because they were talking about why the league may potentially not let LeBron own a team after the news that came out he wants to create a rival league. Take a listen to that audio first, because it's going to give this video the backdrop. Take a listen to what he had to say there originally.
When you look at today's NBA culture, when you look at some of the hits NBA players take, particularly as we approach All-Star Week in the slam dunk contest that LeBron James never participated in, the flagrant, lackadaisical effort they put forth during All-Star Weekend, LeBron James, way before all of that, deciding to take his talents to South Beach from Cleveland, and Dan Gilbert, the owner for the Cavaliers, had to find out watching the news, just like everybody else, or watching him with Jim Gray, just like everybody else. Those kind of things are the kind of, along with that player empowerment movement that LeBron has instigated, which people like myself clearly applaud him for. Those kind of things, the flagrant manner in which he has done it, that has served to turn owners off, which you know all too well, Wendy. How good or how much does that serve to ingratiate him with them in terms of their support with him coming in as an owner? Everybody wanted that for Michael Jordan because of what Michael Jordan did for the league. Even though people like myself, you and others appreciate what LeBron has done in terms of his part, he's been a beneficiary of the sacrifices that the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds, the Michael Jordan, and others have made. And there are some who believe there is an absence of appreciation on his part in that regard, which is why they would probably get in the way of him having an ownership stake, which would explain a story like this. That's what came to my mind with somebody like LeBron James. With all that they've done for the game,
it doesn't
why
sit well with
why
me.
would they not receive the report? Because it's a good old boys club at the end of the day. And if they don't like you and they don't like the way that you've done business with them, they don't have to let you in. Or if they don't like the impact or the resonance that you would bring to that room, they don't have to let you in. Certainly, Wendy's absolutely right. It's about the money first. It's about the equity first. It's about business first. But my point to you is that all things being equal, would you be as receptive to helping a LeBron compared to somebody else that never played the game, that's got billions of dollars and obviously can afford to own a franchise? Chances are you're going to give him resistance because you've seen the league have issues with LeBron despite all he's done for the league, because in several instances, there are things that he has done that they've deduced is against their best interests as owners, as a business. They feel that way, whether it's accurate or not. They actually feel that way. And I know this because I have been told this by people who are in that room. And I'm sure Wendy has as well, because they don't feel, even though they know he's done a tremendous amount for the league, we all know this, there are other things that he has done that has not been helpful. And they know it, they feel it, and they point the finger at him for it. I brought up the slam dunk contest. They talk about that. We all brought up the lackadaisical effort that they put forth for the All-Star game on Sunday for All-Star weekend. You think they don't look at LeBron James? Larry Bird and Dr. J and them come in and talk to the team last year, and they think that they've touched the pulse of the players and all of this stuff. And then they say, you know what? LeBron just gave a side eye to everybody else. And the next thing you know, they went out there and allowed 400 points damn near to be scored, putting forth no effort whatsoever. It may not have been his fault, but they didn't view it that way. Yeah. And because they didn't view it that way, those are the kind of elements, those increments of things, those incremental things that could be problematic when you're asking for equity in a prestigious sports brand.
No,
that is the bottom line.
Fantastic. You heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say then. So as I'm listening to this new audio, Stephen A. Smith then says that a superstar player, who he already said was LeBron, looked Larry Bird in the face with a side eye, and then all of the players in the locker room followed what LeBron did and went out there and laid an egg. For those of you who didn't hear this new audio, take a listen to it here.
There were people that came before these guys. Now, you know as well as I do, Mike, 1 or 2 guys that have the right attitude about this, that is a superstar, changes everything. Remember what happened last year. In last year's All-Star game, Dr. J and Larry Bird, you heard the story just like I did, Wilbon. They made sure we know. Dr. J and Larry Bird walked into the locker room and talked to the players. And they talked to the players, and the NBA thought, yes, the players are really, really listening. They're really, really getting it. And then one of the superstars, who will remain nameless, but everybody can surmise who that was, gave a side eye to those guys while they were talking. And then the players went out there and let 400 points be scored. And the league ain't letting that go. And so what happens is it just shows you, if one player can have that kind of an impact negatively, they can also have that kind of impact positively.
So you heard what the audio said. Let me get this straight. Larry Bird, Oscar Robinson, I think Dr. J, all of these guys who paved the way for suck-ass LeBron James, they go into the locker room because the NBA was desperate to motivate these guys to go out there and play and put on a better show for the fans. As Larry Bird is talking, LeBron gives Larry Bird a side eye. The players, in their return, follow LeBron's lead and go out there and give absolutely zero effort in the game, putting on one of the worst shows, arguably the worst show we've ever seen in an All-Star game. But then, this same LeBron wants to own a team in the NBA. This same LeBron went to this All-Star weekend, thumbed his nose at the league, said F you to Norman Powell, and went and sat up in the front row with his normal clothes. They're taking team pictures. He wears normal clothes. And somehow, some way, LeBron is being viewed as an NBA great. I am lost. I am lost. This dude don't give a about nobody beyond himself. And you got these weird ass, you know what, that love to defend his ass and will take it as far as saying, oh, you know, man, you, what about a black man? You got to support the black man. So hold up. You talking about this black man that when he had an opportunity, without even being asked, threw Kyrie Irving under the bus over that post he put? LeBron was the one that said, you got to be careful about what you say. And da-da-da. And I'm sitting there saying, like, yo, hold up. Wasn't this your teammate? Wasn't this your man's? Number one. Number two, what did Kyrie Irving say? He said nothing. All he did was put up a tweet. Then LeBron, who was twerking it up for his masters, went out there and said, oh man, you know, you gotta be careful about what you say. You gotta be careful about what you say. So what happened to the black man then? That's number two. You dudes still talking about, oh, you want to see the black man, you want to see. LeBron already said Bronny don't even need the money. You mean to tell me somebody else could have had that position? That could have did better with $4 million to help start the life or whatever it is and help support his family? He said, nah, we're going to put Bronny there. I'm going to put mine there. And even though he don't need the money, as LeBron said, I'ma still do it anyway because I'm me. And at the end of all of this, some of you suck ass got this dude in your top two. How? How? Explain to me. You talking about all he did for the NBA. Help me figure it out. All the stuff that he did, but he's a part of some of the worst version of basketball we didn't ever seen. Help me figure it out. How at the end of that weekend you gonna come out of that and be like, yo man, he the second greatest ever. How? I already told you LeBron used to be one of my top 5 players of all time. I removed him out of my top 5 for the simple reason because of his antics. His antics. If LeBron was a friend of mine, or no, forget about him. If you knew somebody in your life that behaved like this dude, there's no way you rocking with him. You'd be like, yo, son, you moving like a sucker. Straight up and down. So now you disrespecting one of the legends that laid the foundation for you. Help me figure it out. Well, if it wasn't for Larry Bird and Magic Johnson who saved the league, there wouldn't have been no league. There wouldn't have been no league. Then came MJ who took it to the next echelon, the upper level. And that's the dude you're going to give a side eye to? When all he's asking you is to go out there and compete and you can't get beyond yourself because, well, they don't want to give me this and they want to give me that. So really? 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 And you rock with this dude? Y'all rocking with this dude? And you know what's crazy? Me, as an independent creator, got more balls than some of these NBA who don't say nothing. They act like, oh man, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Did you see it? I don't know. If Stephen A. Smith know, a lot of these dudes know. But they're not going to say nothing. And then turn around, man, I really love the game. How you love the game when you support and suck a How? How you respect the fans? This dude is unbelievable. I already told you I'm not hiding my feelings no kind of way about it. I'm not supporting the Lakers until LeBron leaves. I'm a Kobe Bryant fan through and through. Kobe never moved like this. He never did. Kobe never had no suck-ass energy. I'm sorry. Anybody from Clutch and all that, I'm a Kobe Bryant fan, and I don't endorse this suck. I'm for Kobe. Not for this weird-ass going on. Unbelievable. So he disrespected Larry Bird. Larry Bird. But talking about, I want my damn respect. How you gonna want respect, but you never give it? How you want respect, but you never give it? You don't even respect the fans, my. What are we talking about? Man, y'all can have this dude. I said what I said. I said what I said. It is what it is.